that's difficult, that's a challenge. But then, on the upside of that is when it's a nice fall day, 65 degrees and sunny, there's nothing better than being outside, working outside. So, you have to be a willing person to really get out there and work outside, work with your hands, no matter what the weather condition. So that's kind of what that says here is the work environment. It's high pressure. Especially you'll start off once you get placed with probably a low pressure line, something that's not going to have as high of train density. But as you start to gain more responsibilities, the pressure is going to go up and up. And you're going to have people calling you, asking you why you don't have that rail in place, or why that switch isn't throwing, or why that locomotive isn't ready to get out of the shop, right? So you're going to be able to have to answer that. You're going to be able to take ownership of that. And you're going to have to take ownership for your guys, right? Because you're a manager. Work schedule, 24/7 operation. It changes from department to department what your guys work. Mechanicals work 3 shifts a day for the most part, 3 8-hour shifts. Transportation runs 24/7. Electrical signal runs 1 shift a day. And track department runs usually about a 12-hour day. Now that being said, let's say we go home at night. If there's a catastrophic derailment or a derailment that I need to go to, I'm going to have to go in at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to have to respond to that because I want to make sure that my guys are doing, I want to check up on my guys. I want to make sure they're putting it back in a safe way, safe manner. Because I want to make sure the public's safe. I want to also make sure that somebody's not blaming the derailment on my team, right? So I also kind of have to go defend my team, which is, I think, a very fun aspect of my job. I've been on a few derailments where you actually get to kind of play crime scene investigator. You get to try to figure out what went wrong. What in the system failed to put that car or that locomotive on the ground, or what made these 2 cars collide. So I think it's really cool. I don't really mind to get called in at 11 or 12 o'clock at night because I get to play kind of CSI, And usually that's one of the best times to learn also because you're doing usually bigger projects. So it's a hard work schedule, but that doesn't mean that's not rewarding. I always still say to this day, I'd rather work 16 hours out working outside on a derailment than I would spending 8 hours doing data entry. So that's kind of the people that we're looking for these jobs.
Yeah, just go back to outside 1 second.
Yep.
They're trying to really emphasize all this stuff, and you can't take this lightly. So I do the exit interviews. Half the reason why people voluntarily leave from Union Pacific is this. They didn't get holidays off, they didn't get have Christmas dinner with their family, you don't get weekends off. Weekends are just another day for us because we run trains 7 days a week. So Saturday and Sunday to us doesn't mean anything other than it's a day to schedule work. It's just a name for a day to us. It's not a weekend in the sense that everyone gets Saturday and Sunday off. It just doesn't happen at the railroad. You're going to work overnight. You're going to work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. You might do that for 3 months straight. That might be a permanently assigned shift. You might rotate. 1 month on midnights, 1 month on days. It just depends on your local team, what they decide. But this here is the #1 reason why people leave the railroad, because they just can't hack it. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not hiding it. We're telling you because you're aware more than anyone if this is the lifestyle for you. You talk to people in the Union Pacific headquarters building in the finance department, marketing and sales, they would never work this schedule. They're not cut out for it. You talk to people in the field, they would never work in a headquarters building, It's just job fit, right? Some people are different than others. Everyone is different. So you have to be willing to not only accept, but thrive in this. I'm telling you, I tell everyone this, and I said, when I send it in an offer, it's in the offer letter. If you get an offer, it says up here, it says sign off on this and sign it and give it back to me. I want to make sure you're aware. I told you 3 times already, here it is. And still to this day, when people leave, it's one of these reasons, which is okay. But I'm always confident that, look, we told you what it was like. No qualms about it. Look, our tracks are outside. There's no roof over our tracks. So when it's snowing, like everyone, look how bad it is out there today. If you work for a railroad, you're out there today, right? Or yesterday, worse, So you got to just be prepared to be in those situations and enjoy it, What can I tell you? That's life, But there's a reason why we pay pretty well. The pay escalates pretty quickly. Good compensation packages, but that's taken into consideration. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but HR jobs to start pay half of what these do. Marketing and sales pay less than half, right? So there's a reason for that. You don't get holidays off, When the HR department is home on Christmas or Thanksgiving, don't get mad at them. You could apply for that job too, so I'm telling you now, you're just not gonna get paid equivalently, right?
That's absolutely right. I mean, Stephen really hit the nail on the head. And, once you put in your seniority, right, you can start to get a little bit more freedom there, or you're able to allow to work around it, but it's nothing to count on. It's really nothing that going into it you should count on. You should expect on working those holidays and maybe missing your kids' football games, That's something that is expected of you. So the operations management training program is anywhere from 12 to 36 months. It's pretty long, but during that process, we have a lot of different really cool things that you do during that process. It's a hands-on training combined with classroom training, computers-based training, and on-the-job again training. And so it's your first 6 months you spend a lot of time in the classroom. And it's a lot of that leadership development program. Like for instance, we do Franklin Covey leader development programs, which are great classes. And then, as you go on through that operations management training program, you're given a little bit more and more responsibility, but your main purpose is to learn as much as you can. It's one of those self-driven programs. You have a schedule that you are supposed to adhere to, and you really want to follow because you want to make sure you can learn as much as you can. However, you're the one that dictates what you get out of the program. Whatever you put into it is what you get out of it. So you have to be a self-driven person, and you really have to have the initiative to learn. But it's also really fun because you can make it. You can travel the country, learning the railroad. You want to try to get a breadth of what the railroad is in each different region, in case you ever get moved there. I want to know how the South operates, right? Because the North operates much differently for environmental reasons, as well as culture reasons. There's lots of different reasons. So that being said, you get to travel a lot. You get to work with different people, and you gotta be not timid, you gotta be able to ask. It's kind of like sometimes that you're showing up on the job for the first day multiple times over. Because when I go to Houston, Texas and work with a new maintainer, I have to go up to him and introduce myself, and it's like the first day all over again. So you might actually be doing that for almost 2-3 years. Signal department is gonna be the longest, just because it's probably one of the most it's the most complicated system on the UP network. Behind that, it's about tied for about that 1 to 2 year mark for mechanical as well as civil. And then transportation's about, I think they're getting placed at the 8-9 month mark right about now. But still, it's a long program, and you're not really given that much responsibility right off. Your main responsibility is just to learn. So you have to be willing to learn. I always say it's like I'm getting my master's in railroading.
And they're paying you for it.
They are paying me for it. And they're paying for me to travel too. So, I kind of turned into kind of a food snob these days, And because, I go out to eat at really good spots all the time, and stay in a bunch of really nice hotels, So if I go eat somewhere that's really kind of trashy, I'll be like, no, I'm okay, but it's just one of those fun perks of the job. So, curriculum, first 12 weeks, learning the railroad. You're going to start off with your orientation week. You'll move on to operating practices, which is basically your just general rules. I think the mechanicals do it. They just ruled it out for the signals and the track. So if you're a mechanical or an electrical engineer, you probably won't have to run through, civil engineer and electrical doesn't have to. But that's basically your basic operating rules. After that, you do a small stint with the transportation training. And the idea behind that is we're going to try to give you, early on in your career, give you as much exposure to the other departments as possible. So you know how all the departments play together. Because when you do get placed, you have to coordinate with those other departments on a daily basis. So if you understand a little bit what's going on in their department, you'll have a better understanding of what they need from you and what you need from them. So they go through that. You do a little cross-departmental training. Here are some of the different classes you take in there as well. So I talked about the times already, but those are changed, and it really comes to a demand basis of when you're going to get placed. So, do you want to talk about the rest of this, Steve?
Sure. So, all right, here's the sales pitch. Why Union Pacific? And a lot of people, say, okay, why do you like working for UP? And we all have somewhat different answers, but the root causes are generally the same. It's a good company. The best thing I like about it, I'm a little older. I got more responsibilities now in my life, and it's a very stable company. Doing gangbusters as far as record profits every quarter for the last I don't know how many quarters. Just a whole ton of cash in the bank at UP. Just a great time to work for a railroad. These are good times. So it's very stable. If you want a job with the railroad, we'll always need people. You can't outsource these jobs. We need people to run the railroad. If you perform well at UP, you start there. After you graduate college, you can retire there as long as you perform well and you've got a job. We believe that we're the industry leader. It's a very reputable and transparent company. I would just encourage you to go out and do a stock quote of UNP, Union Pacific, and I'm not saying look at the stock price, which happens to be at an all-time high, but go read the articles about it. Go read the last 10, 15, 20 articles. It's all positive news. I mean, I think 99% of it's all good stuff. All not just about the stock price, but it's good stuff, good news. What we do for the public, what we do for the economy, what we do for the country. It's often recognized as a great place to launch a career. Pretty well known. You work at Union Pacific. You work at other similar companies. They look at us. They look up at us. Amazing growth potential. This is another great thing I brag about, is that all the executives at Union Pacific, almost across the board, started at Union Pacific at a more or less an entry-level position. They either started in a similar management program, they started out as a union worker, many of them, all across the board. A lot of them started out as engineers, then the operating side, or conductors, or management trainees. So with the fact that when a lot of companies say we promote from within, look, we're a railroad, you got to know our industry. We're not going to go to 3M, they're all great companies. We're not going to go to Verizon, we're not going to go to another company and hire their executive to come in and run our railroad. They wouldn't know what they were doing. They don't know how to run a railroad. They know how to run a company, but they don't know how to run a railroad. And you need a railroad to understand, what it takes to actually, the operations on a company. Plus you could go from one department to another. Generally it doesn't happen too quickly. They want you to get, pretty much acclimated in the job that you were hired for. So they want you on that job, transferring a couple times to different locations, whatever it may be. But then, there are opportunities. I actually started out as a crew dispatcher and seeing crew management services. I went to Harriman Dispatching Center for my second career. The third career I was I call career, each one's like a mini career. I went to a Western Region manager. Fourth career, I came back to the Harriman Dispatch. No, I went to the benefits group after that, HR. Then I went to the Harriman Dispatch Center as the HR director. Now I'm on the Northern Region. So I've had 6 jobs in 16 years, all different, which they resided in 3 different departments. So you have that opportunity to bounce around, and the more you bounce around, the more valuable you get to the company. You become more efficient. More growth potential. But I will say this, and particularly in these jobs, you got to be willing to relocate, not just for that first job assignment, but likely multiple times throughout your career. More so on like the civil side, once you get your first assignment, you'll be responsible for 200, maybe 300 miles of track. Once you master those, you get really good at it, and you're shooting lights out with metrics. They're going to want to move you because you're not going to climb too far up the company ladder if you master 300 miles of our 32,000 miles, right? So they might promote you, move you to a different territory where the rail is, more important, if you would, more critical, if you would, to the overall operations, to learn different aspects. Every time you move from one location to another, something is different. You may go from one yard to another yard. Those yard operations, you can't believe how different a yard can vary across the system. Different things happen there. Crew changes, refueling, switching, hump yards, I can go on and on. Even just the climate, the commodity that comes through there can be very different, can cause different, even just the culture. The unionized workforces have different cultures based on the histories of them. Perhaps they were former Southern Pacific or former CNW, so different rule reviews actually from one yard to the next. So Some of them actually we share track with other companies, like the BN can run their trains on ours and vice versa. So you have a lot of that going on. I mean, I can go on and on about the differences of why territories change or what's different. So you got to be willing to relocate throughout your career.
These relocations, by the way, can be very, very lucrative, because when you move to a different location, it's usually because you've mastered the first. So you have more responsibility, you get a great raise or a promotion. On top of that, you get a great moving package. For example, if you buy a house in one area, the house loses lots of value, he will actually buy the house from you and pay you back the value you lost in that house. Like, they really care about you when they move you around. It's not never that problematic financially.
The first move is always the toughest, but as college students, recent college grads, if you do get a job and you're required to relocate, we give you $6,000. We figure you're living in a dorm or an apartment or a house or something, you don't have much, you pack up a truck, you get there. Thereafter, then you get the full relocation packages as internal employees that he's mentioning. The first one, it's a $6,000 loan.
When they come, they literally pack everything in your house for you. There's very limited work involved with relocating as the second, in that second package and on.
Everything's taken care of.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do they unpack for you? Because I've moved a couple times and unpacking seems way worse.
No.
I don't know if they will.
No, they don't. No, they wouldn't. No.
You could probably pay them to do that.
Sure,
Well,
yeah.
we wouldn't.
Hey, I don't know. But you probably could, actually. You probably could work that one. So the salaries, as they were mentioned, is fully paid through training. Salary range start at $57,000. $57,000 generally for transportation managers. That's the starting range, again, throughout training. While that starts a little lower, it's less technical, plus you qualify much quicker, so you get those pay increases sooner, and get you caught up a little quicker. And then the various disciplines range from $57,000 up to close to $70,000. The double E's get closer to $70,000, just more technical, harder, less hard supply or greater demand if you do now. So pay is different for the discipline that you're going into. But there are step rate pay increases along the way. Once you, like what we call, get your first job or get your first assignment, then it's all based on your performance. Everyone has a coach throughout the training. Once you get a fully assigned position, you'll have a supervisor, of course, and that supervisor, well, hopefully you have a good relationship with him or her. They'll manage your work, and they'll give you performance reviews, and at the end of every year, typically, we have a merit program, which can include a pay increase, a bonus, even stock. And at that point, that's all determined by your performance. It has nothing to do with how long you've been there. It has nothing to do with seniority. These are not union jobs. It's a pay for performance role.
And as engineers, you'll probably have many job offers. When you compare the starting salary, just keep in mind that at UP, it may start at 57 to 70, somewhere in there. But think about where you're going to be in 2 years when you get placed. Raises come very, very fast. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're comparing offers.
And throughout the training program, you're actually given, instead of most companies give you a raise every year. But while you're in the training program, you get a raise every 6 months. So, and that's just so you are competitive with some of those other companies. But I mean, the raises are good and they do come often.
And then we actually have, I'm not sure how interesting this is. I'll spend as much time you want on it, but the actual benefits package. Ask anyone that works for any railroad, not just Union Pacific. They're pretty lucrative. When you work for a railroad, you don't pay Social Security, probably like your parents do, your friends do when they work for other companies. You pay railroad retirement, pay a little bit more going into it, but generally it pays about twice as much on the way out when you retire than Social Security does in today's world. We have a fully funded pension, which is basically the company puts money in an account for you that grows according to a planned schedule. So regardless of the performance of the stock market, you have a fully funded, in essence, another 401k, or it's a company pension. So you have that. Now you have the railroad retirement, you have the pension. We offer a 401k match, 401k plan and a match, which is, the match is 1/2 of the first 6%. So now you get 3 sources of income when you retire. And I would just ask any railroad. If you happen to know a railroad and just say, how's the retirement plan? Even regardless of what they do. Management's a little bit more lucrative. So if you're asking a union worker, they generally don't get the pension and they don't get the 401k match. Those are management benefits, and these are management positions that we're here hiring for. But even a union worker would say, fantastic, it's wonderful working for a railroad. It's good as far as retirement benefits go. Now, of course, we have healthcare. We actually have a really good healthcare for single people, which I imagine most people are in here. We have a whole menu of benefits, but most people take the plan, which is like $15 a month for single coverage. You get, it's a high deductible health plan. You get a lump sum of money. The company gives you like $1,300 and pays for any of those expenses up to $1,300 thereafter. There's like a co-insurance plan. So it's incenting you to stay healthy, and if you don't use any of that money, you bank it, it's your money. And every year you get that, you know? So I got family coverage, and the company gives me more because I have family coverage. I pay more into it,